这可恶的天气啊，真不想在外面。可是 I have some bits to take care of. So what are you gonna do? Tell you what I'm gonna do. It's raining, it's cold, and there's no better remedy than a noodle bowl. Specifically, a bowl of mutton noodles from Shuangfeng of Taicang. I'm not in Taicang, by the way. I'm in Suzhou proper. But as luck would have it, the one and only Shuangfeng mutton specialist in Suzhou proper, or at least they're shown online, just opened, and it's just a short walk away. Actually, I learned of the restaurant just a short while ago when I fired up the Dianping app to look for a place to grab lunch. I saw the recommendation on the front page and decided to follow directions and head there because I've been yearning to try Shuangfeng mutton for a few weeks now, ever since some viewers of my recent videos left comments telling me about Shuangfeng mutton. So what is so special about Shuangfeng mutton? I don't know, because I didn't plan to have this meal, I didn't do any research before, and I've never had this before. But there is a wall of information across the room. So I will relay the words on there as I slurp on the very thing that those words describe. So there seems to be an introductory paragraph that tells you an overview of Shuangfeng mutton. It seems like there are 3 key phrases there, referring to the meat, the broth, and the noodles. So we could possibly deduce that the main manifestation of Shuangfeng mutton is noodles. So let's begin with the first part, the meat. Ideally, the meat should be sourced from Taicang goat, preferably castrated males or grown females. Since these goats are raised in Shuangfeng in the west of Taicang, where the land is relatively flat and very verdant, so the animals feed on a wide range of plants, which endow the flesh with remarkable palatability. And this flesh is palatable. Notice how there's skin on there. In my humble opinion, mutton with skin is usually a sign of southern cooking as opposed to northern practice. It's the same with some other mutton cuisines of Suzhou, as well as Dongshan mutton of Hainan, not Suzhou, of Hainan, etc. Mutton with skin is rare in the north because I remember a gastronome explaining that sheepskin, and I guess goat skin as well, is reserved to make leather because northern China is much colder than the south. And so sheepskin is much more valuable being worn rather than eaten. It's also interesting to note that the Taicang folks are pretty forthright about using goat mutton rather than sheep mutton, the latter of which is usually preferred in the majority of mutton cuisines, including Suzhou's mutton cuisines, especially those sourced from the lake sheep. Although I think most of the shops just use goats nowadays. On to the second focal point, the broth. After the goat is slaughtered, the meat is clean, and then the bottom of the pot is lined with straws. Only the cores of the straws with the exterior removed. The bottom is lined to prevent the meat from sticking to the pot. And then the sides of the pot are covered with radish slices to eliminate gaminess. This is pretty interesting. We'll talk about this in a minute. And then the tougher meats are placed at the bottom, and then tenderer meats are placed on top. And then condiments and seasonings are added to the water that boils the mutton. And the recipe of the seasonings is probably one of the major differences in taste between different shops. The cooking water also functions as the broth in the noodle soup, which is like very rich and bold in flavors, but remains pretty clear. It isn't, murky from all the flavor compounds from the meat being cooked. And speaking of the meat being cooked in the pot, the use of radish as a gaminess remover is expected, but also very interesting. I say it is expected because eliminating gaminess in mutton is almost always a requirement in cooking mutton in the South. And I'll explain a little bit more about this in the description section. But it's interesting because radish is the tool being used here in Shuangfeng mutton. Changshu mutton uses a big tub, I think made from cedar, because purportedly the wood can absorb gaminess from the mutton. And here they use radish. I remember a gourmet saying that radish is a great partner for beef because the natural mustard seed oil contained in the radish can eliminate the gaminess, and it's probably the same mechanism working its magic here. This broth is powerful, but it's definitely not gamey. I should note that mutton noodles are also found in another type of Suzhou's local mutton cuisine, Taoyuan mutton. However, the form is pretty different. With Taicang Mutton, you usually have a bowl of relatively dry noodles, and on the side you have a small dish containing the braised mutton, including this thick sauce. And then you mix the two together and you form this like semi-dry bowl of noodles, whereby the strands are coated in this the thick sauce. Shuangfeng mutton, however, is a noodle soup through and through. The broth is much less viscous. It's a broth, it's not a sauce. Now that we're talking about noodles, let's get to the third focal point, the noodle strands themselves. The noodles, they are nicknamed jump noodles, probably because of the bouncy texture. And one of the key steps in the production process is repeatedly beating and pounding and pressing the dough using a stick. That action is probably what gives the noodles the elasticity. I've eaten plenty of noodles from Suzhou proper, and I love them. But I also know that some people dislike Suzhou noodles because they think the noodles are too thin and too soft. It doesn't have that al dente in pasta parlance. But that won't be too much of an issue with these Shuangfeng mutton noodles. They seem to be much thicker and firmer. Of course, I'm not saying which is better. They're delicious in their own ways. And also, when feasible, come and see the real beautiful China. Come to Suzhou and try all the different kinds of noodles and decide for yourself. And if you're a fan of noodles, come back for my next episode because I'm going to talk about another type of noodles that doesn't emphasize the three focal points discussed here, but rather a fourth aspect that is often not even considered important in noodles. Yeah, so it's pretty special. 再见。